Good evening, third grade families, and welcome to the third grade parent orientation evening. We are thrilled to have you, even if it is virtually. We're glad to see that so many people could join us. We will be recording this and sharing the PowerPoint with families through School Messenger. So if you have a friend or neighbor who couldn't make it this evening, just reassure them that it's available after tonight's presentation. So I'm thrilled to turn this over to the third grade teachers, and I think you'll get a lot of great information about life at Center School in grade 3. So enjoy.
Hello and good evening. Yes, we are going to just tell you guys what is going to, overview of what's going to happen in third grade. So this is a webinar, so the chat has been disabled, but the Q&A part of this has been left open. So if you have any questions, you can put them in there. We're asking that you leave out questions for individual teachers. Your child's teacher has sent you a Zoom link for a Zoom meeting after this webinar, so you can ask the individual questions there. But if you have any questions about the presentation as we're going along now, you can ask them. But before we do that, let's introduce ourselves. You're muted, Steve.
Sorry about that. Good evening. I am Mr. Lovell, third grade teacher.
Hi, I'm Heather Healy, third grade teacher in room 8.
I'm Jessica Flaherty, third grade teacher in room 11.
I'm Heather Picardi, third grade teacher in room 12.
I'm Sarah LaFont, third grade teacher in room 16.
Hi everyone, I'm Mara Donahue. I'm a third grade teacher in room 18.
Bronwyn, you're muted.
Hi everyone, I'm Bronwyn Thornton and I am one of the special education teachers for grade 3.
Hi everyone, I'm Jane K. Ellis. I'm also one of the third grade special ed teachers and I'm in room 9.
And I am Mrs. Simonelli. I'm a third grade teacher in room 13.
So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about our daily schedule. For in-person days, we teach foundations. We do readers workshop. We're teaching Envisions math. We're also teaching writing. Students will have one movement break in a recess, and they have lunch and specialists. When they're home, all third grade students have a morning meeting that's followed by a live instructional block with both in-person and at-home students. You can expect that students are getting 2 to 3 hours worth of schoolwork per day when they're home. And during the day, they'll have one Zoom with their teacher that's just their cohort. And at the end of the day, will be another meeting to kind of close the day up with both of the cohorts. And then on Wednesdays, the fully remote day, there will be a morning meeting with both cohorts. And then after that, each cohort has an individual meeting with just the teacher. You can also expect 2 to 3 hours worth of schoolwork on this day. And in addition to the normal schoolwork, there will be a week-long science or social studies assignment that will be assigned. And those switch each week, one science, and then the next week would be social studies and back and forth.
Hi, this slide is based on our Center School's online expectations that was sent out last spring when we went full remote, and what we've learned works best in terms of the Zooms to make them positive and productive for your children. So what they need is their assignments for the day. When they leave the school, they will leave with a packet so that they have their schedule and anything that they need to work on at home during their remote days. They need a pencil, whiteboard and marker, and an independent reading book. And signing in on time is really important. We do take attendance at the 8:35 meeting. It's important for the kids to mute their microphones so that as we begin, we can do that as quickly as possible. Kids are coming into the classroom in the morning between 8:05 and 8:30 and unpacking and getting settled in. So we're trying to make it every attempt to start as on time as possible. And also that they keep their video on so that we can see that they're there for attendance and for engagement. We're asking them to sit close enough to the screen. We can hear them so much better when they're closer to the microphone, and that they're facing the screen and staying with us for the whole meeting. And then the bottom circles, we're hoping that the students see their home learning space as an extension of our classroom and try to limit distractions just like we do in our own classrooms. So we've listed some things that might be helpful that are not in view during our Zoom meetings. And we understand that every family is different and has different space issues at home. So some siblings may be working in the same room, and that's fine, but just to limit those other distractions so that when we have them for those times during our Zoom meetings, that we can be productive as possible.
My lights just turned off. Hold on. That was going to happen. So going off of what Mrs. LaFawn was saying, we are having the students doing a lot of their work at home. We're asking you for a lot of help, and sometimes we're asking you not to help with certain activities. So here's just a simple list of things that we want your help with your students learning at home, and some things that we don't want you to help with. Things that we would like for you to help with is logging in on time. We have short times with them when we're on our Zoom times, and it is important to us that they're there on time so that we can get started right away. Things like morning work and bonus activities, those are typically review concepts that if your child needs help with, you can help with those. Reading directions or reading the questions aloud to students. Checking for task completion on the papers that we're sending home in the packets weekly and in Google Classroom. We need your help to communicate with us when your child is struggling with a certain concept. That can be a note on the top of a sheet, it can be an email, or a note in Google Classroom. And we would like your help keeping your child organized for daily tasks and having the things that they need when they're on their Zooms. And some of the papers on the cover sheets or on the top of the papers, it will say, please don't do this until you meet with your teacher on the Zoom meetings. And it's important that we do that work with the students to get them started on their lesson for the day. Things that students we don't want you to help with at all is the iReady instructions. So after our iReady testing, we'll be assigning iReady instructions. And this is meant to toggle between challenging tasks and tasks that are just right for the students so that we can find their just right reading levels or where they're at in math. So we're asking you not to help with those things at home. And also Lexia Core 5. Again, that is a program that is geared towards students' individual needs. And if you're helping with either of those things, it sort of clouds what we understand the child. So if you're not sure what you should or shouldn't help with, just reach out to your child's teacher and they will guide you.
Hi, I think this year is probably going to be our most important year for communication back and forth. There were a couple things we wanted to make you aware of. If you have a dismissal change, if you could please send in a note rather than email the teacher. That way it would, just to make sure that we get it in time in the morning. And then definitely if your plans change during the day, we totally understand. We just can't guarantee that we're going to be able to see an email in time. So we ask that you please contact the office instead. Just give them a phone call and they will call into our room and let us know about the dismissal change. Attendance, like we said before, daily attendance is taken at the 8:35 Zoom, and then we do make note of the attendance at the later Zoom in the day. When students are home sick, we ask that they focus on getting well, and joining a Zoom on just a regular sick day really isn't something that we can accommodate short notice, and sometimes the content might be repetitive if they're joining a cohort B Zoom and they're really in cohort A, so it might not be the best use of their time. If students are home for an extended period of time, the parent and the teacher will work out a plan for that time that they're home. And always, if you're unsure of whether or not to send your child to school, please reach out to the nurse. They have all the guidelines and everything that we all need to follow.
So what can I find on Google Classroom? Our Google Classroom is the main hub for remote learning. It has everything that your students need in order to be successful remotely. So under the classwork tab, the classwork tab is the most important tab of all because it has several, they're called topics, but they look like headings. So one of the headings is the Zoom links and schedule, and that's so that your student can go into Google Classroom and log right into Zoom independently. Now we've worked with students quite a bit in the first few weeks of school so that they can do most of this independently, which is awesome. And of course they've had some experience from last year as well. So it was surprisingly impressive how well they did with us right off the bat. So under the classwork tab, we have the Zoom links in the schedule. We also have the weekly assignments listed by the dates and as well as the materials they need for each one of those assignments. We have important announcements and newsletters as a topic, and then websites that we use, including their login information. So if we ever have them going to another website, that has all the information they need to log in and how to do it and what their password should be. We also have resources for them for math, reading, and writing. So for math, there's some multiplication charts on there. I think there's some number lines. For writing, there are some brain frames. And then for reading, I think there are just some different graphic organizers to help them out with that as well. So on the mainstream of Google Classroom, at times, students have a habit of using it as a little bit of a social media for them to communicate with each other. So we ask that they reserve that for any questions that they might have for the teacher. And we didn't want to make it so it's private because usually if one student has a question, it's very likely that another student will have it as well. So we just ask that they keep it for questions and answers rather than socializing. They've been doing a great job with that so far.
Going off of Google Classroom, this is all about grading and feedback and conferences. For grading, students' work will be graded. We want to see authentic student work, whether they're doing virtual work or they're doing their work in school. Students are expected to complete work daily while they're in person and when they are virtual. The virtual piece of it, we understand that sometimes things may not be able to get done that day, but they are expected to complete that within the week. Feedback, you'll see feedback and comments on students' physical work that's coming home. You will also see comments and feedback on students' work in Google Classroom. The assignments will be returned both physically and virtually. And when they're sent back virtually on Google Classroom, the students don't need to send them back to us. You can check your child's feedback through their student account on Google Classroom. Conferences this year will be held virtually the first week of November. Your child's teacher will email a Sign Up Genius on Wednesday, October 21st for parents to sign up for a conference time. The following dates are set aside for our conferences. We'll be doing them on November 3rd from 1 to 3, and then again on November 5th from 5 to 7. And this year conferences will be 10 minutes long.
Good evening. I get to talk about science. This year we are going to be talking about Earth, Physical, and Life Science. Some of the things that we have are some very interesting topics, and they're going to be done a little bit differently than in the past, but they still have much of the same content, and it's going to be exciting. And I think we have some very exciting topics. We have in the past had tadpoles in the rooms growing into frogs. We'll be planting plants and growing those and harvesting those. We'll be talking about the weather, climate, and the weather tools, and then also forces and interactions. So that's exciting and fun. And I think the kids really get a big kick out of science. I'm going to talk about this slide too. I love these topics. This one, social studies, I think is so interesting. And we get to do some of the most interesting topics, I think, for any grade level. And a lot of it has to deal with history. And one of the things that I know we all try to do is we link it to our history, because this is our area. And there's a lot of interesting topics that we get to go through: the Pilgrims, the Wampanoags, the Puritans. We talk about the American Revolution and what the events that happened here in Massachusetts that we hear about and that the students have heard about, but now they get to make a connection to those things. And not only are we talking about our past, but we talk about our present. We talk about Hanover, the history of Hanover, and we learn a lot about this great town. So a lot of interesting topics and a lot of fun, exciting things to learn about.
Good evening. I'm here to talk about math. We're going to continue to use our Envisions math program this year. In the spring, Envisions changed its name to Savvis. So if the kids log on to through the Pearson website, on the Hanover website, when they log on, it does say Savvis Learning Company. They're in the right place. We'll show them how to log on at school so that they know what it looks like. But if you see a different name, it's because of the name change. Everything else remains the same in the online program. Our biggest area of focus at the beginning of the year will be multiplication and division. We've already started with that, and I think it's 5 or 6 units long. As the year progresses, we'll explore area and perimeter. We'll review addition and subtraction with regrouping, fractions, measurement, and data. And we will also focus on learning our multiplication facts this year. And I'm also going to talk a little bit about ELA. So we are continuing with our Readers Workshop program here. We've already almost finished or pretty much finished up the Readers Workshop launch, which just reviews what Readers Workshop is and some of the things that we do for Readers Workshop. We should be starting our next unit of study within the next week, and we're talking about elements of fiction, and then we have a character study with the book Because of Winn-Dixie. Then we'll move on to informational text, traditional literature, and biographies. And our 3 main focuses for writing this year is term 1, we're going to be writing a narrative. Term 2 is expository writing. And term 3 is opinion writing. And those match up with the Readers Workshop's units of study.
And our last part of ELA is our Foundations program, which is our phonics and decoding program. This program is used K to 3 in the district. It's a multisensory program. We take advantage of using magnet tiles and whiteboards. Students study sound-alike words. They study their trick words, and then We assess through dictation checkups on whiteboards and then the unit assessments at the end of each.
And that's a wrap. We'll have a short question and answer with Mrs. Dragonier if that is necessary. Then we'll take a quick 5-minute break, and then we will break off and Zoom with your child's teacher. You should have gotten an email for that. And thank you so much for joining us tonight.
So you only received a couple of questions, and one was if the presentation would be sent electronically. And yes, we will send both the PowerPoint and a recording of the live session, and that will go out as soon as possible. A question, should students be on Lexia right now? Can someone take that?
I can take it. I think some teachers have started using Lexia and some of them are still getting up and running. So it just depends on the child's classroom.
We've heard there will be no homework for grade 3. Is this true? And if so, why? Steve, you want to take that one?
At this point for homework, we have decided that right now we are not doing homework. That's something that we decided that we'd talk about as the year progresses through the virtual learning and the at-school learning right now, and just trying to keep things organized for the students and what they are bringing in and what they are not bringing in. So it's a fluid progress right now. There's things that can and will change, and we all have to be adaptable, and your teacher will get you information.
And that is all the questions. And then you had one nice comment. Thank you for all you're doing. The path you have set forward for all of us is very well organized, and the support you offer is most appreciated. So I second that. So I know that you've all sent links, and you plan on having the parents join you virtually in your classroom. So thank you on behalf of Mr. Wilson and I for attending this evening in 3rd grade. As always, a fantastic job. So we'll end this part of the presentation and see you in your classrooms. Good night.